Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new YouTube video on the channel. And today guys, we are going to be doing our AFL 2023 pressure rankings, going over how much pressure your AFL club has going into 2023. And it's going to be expectation-wise, playing-wise, ladder position-wise, all that kind of stuff. We're going to be doing this on a tier list. Obviously, teams at the top are going to be having a lot of pressure going into this year, and the teams towards the bottom of the tier list aren't going to be having as much pressure. But obviously, you still want to play well as a playing group. So let's go ahead and hop right into things. Alright, so here we go. There is the top ranking, which is lots of pressure. There's a fair bit of pressure, mild pressure, a bit of pressure, and not a lot of pressure heading into the 2023 AFL season. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the Adelaide Crows. And I feel like there is actually quite a fair bit of pressure around them going into 2023. There's a lot of pressure also around Isaac Rankin, their star recruit, as well. Whether they play him in the midfield or forward line is going to be interesting. That can put pressure. They're a young group that actually need to start going places and doing things in 2023. Finishing 14th in 2022. In what you could say was a good season, but there were a couple of poor moments in that season as well, having a really couple of shaky wins as well. But yeah, for them it is definitely time to start having a look at getting into those 10-11 wins this year, getting into that top 12 bracket and really contending with finals for them for most of the year, and most importantly for them getting off to a good start as well. Their fixture is favourable in the first couple of rounds, so they do need to get off to that good start, which will start to kickstart their season, actually put them in a good position to go well. So for Brisbane, I'm going to say there is quite a fair bit of pressure on them as well. Now, we do know they are actually quite a great list and a talented list, but all the names that have come in this year are literally pointing to a grand final appearance and potentially a grand final win as well. So there is a fair bit of pressure going on around the Lions at the moment. All their top star recruits that have joined them, Dunkley, Fletcher, Ashcroft, Gunston, there's a lot of pressure going all over them. They need to perform well and put up great performances in 2023. They need to win lots of games. They really need to go for that minor premiership and try and win a prelim final to get through the grand final. I feel like that's what they need to really have a pass mark. Not necessarily win it, but winning it for them should definitely be right up in their expectations. So for Carlton, I think this one was pretty obvious where this one was going to be going. They are probably one of the most under pressure sides heading into the 2023 AFL season. In 2021, they were okay. In 2022, they looked like they needed to make finals, and they should have made finals. They missed it. They absolutely were poor towards the end of the year and could not book a spot in the finals after they had played well for the whole entire year. They hadn't just played well, they had been in the top 8 for the whole year, except for that final round where they dropped out. So there's a lot of pressure at Carlton at the moment. They've got some big name recruits. They need to get into the top 8 this year. If they do not make the top 8 this year, there could be lots of reviews and stuff going on at this club in the 2023 off-season. So for Collingwood, I'm going to say this year, it's probably mild pressure for them. I feel like they've got some pressure to perform again, just like last year. So you could probably say fair bit of pressure, but I feel like mild pressure is probably the right spot for them to be, considering what they did last year was unheard of, unpredicted. Nobody thought they were going to have a big rise in 2023. If they were to have a big rise in 2022, if they were to fall in 2023, I don't think it would surprise everybody. And I feel like they will be 5 to 8 in 2023 as well. Going to have a little bit of a drop. Obviously, we know the amount of close games they won last year. They probably could have been bottom 4 last year, finished top 4 as all those games are favourable to them. Now to Essendon, and I'm going to say, look, fair bit of pressure is for them as well. With Brad Scott coming in, who's a pretty good coach, with lots of trades happening as well. They didn't get the most big name market players, but they did get a couple of hidden gems, which I reckon could be really great players at their club. Will Setterfield, for example, adds height to their midfield. Sam Wiedemann, obviously not in Melbourne's side a lot, but could make a difference in Essendon's side. I feel like they are under a fair bit of pressure due to their horrible 2022, where that footy club was an absolute mess. They need to bounce back, and as a bare minimum this year for the Bombers, you'd be thinking they'd have to win at least 7 or 8 games to actually have a decent season, and they need to be competitive in a lot of their games and try and sculpt a couple of upset wins to try and get themselves into that good position. So for Fremantle, I'm going to say, look, you can again put him in fair pressure, but I'm going to put him in mild pressure. Some people have predicted the Freo fall off in 2023. I feel like they'll still be in that top 8 area for sure, probably lower bracket of the top 8. But I feel like for Fremantle, with a big trade period, it might take them a couple of rounds to actually get back into the feel of it. That they've lost some big name players. It's not like they're massive names in the competition, but you can still feel like a name like Logue, Tucker, Lobb are going to hurt your side, especially considering Lobb did kick the most goals for the Dockers in 2022. However, Jackson does come into side, which is going to be a great addition for them, though. So I feel like there's a bit of mild pressure heading into their season. A drop-off could be expected, but also I feel like their season's going to be a really big one. With a tough fixture, you can really put them in fair bit of pressure, which I think that's where I'll leave them. So for the Cats, I'm going to say there is a bit of pressure because they do obviously want to go back-to-back, but there's not really a lot of pressure, though, I feel, because obviously they're the best side in the competition at the moment, and you can say lots of pressure, but I feel like just a bit of pressure or even mild pressure just to go back-to-back is interesting. But I'm just going to put them in a little bit of pressure. They got a bit of pressure on them to go back-to-back, but I feel like this year could be a really big trial and experiment year for the Cats. They don't have to finish first. They just need to try and finish in the top 4. Obviously, making the grand final and winning it again would be their ultimate aim, and I feel like that is well and truly capable with the Cats. So the Gold Coast Suns this year do actually have quite a fair bit of pressure. I'm going to put them in lots of pressure, though, now. This one could be a surprise for a couple of you guys that have lost their big gun star player, Isaac Rankin. However, having a good player back, Ben King, from injury is going to really help him out. Kaz Boltshaw were brilliant last year. This year's got to be the year for Gold Coast where it's no more bad starts, no more badness, just starting to actually collect a couple of really important away wins and plenty of home wins at Metricon Stadium. Pretty much every game they play at Metricon Stadium should be they can win. And they should be a good chance to win at Metricon Stadium. I feel that's what they got to do this year to really have a good chance to make the top 8. We know they're a young up-and-coming side that actually do have the power to be a top 8 threat. So the Giants, I'm going to say they are under a bit of pressure this year in the sense they actually need to dish up something, but they're really not in a lot of pressure, as it's probably going to be an experiment year for them. Now, personally, I could just see them sliding down the ladder, finishing last. I don't think it's going to be a great year for the Giants, but in terms of contracts, I don't really feel like anybody at that club is under a lot of pressure just because of how they're restarting and resetting. They still had a couple of players and Leon Cameron at the club. They'd probably be in mild pressure, but considering all the draftees they've gotten, they're younger players, they're going to take a little while to get into the system. They're going to be in rebuilding stage. They're under not a lot of pressure. Just like the Hawks, they're not under a lot of pressure either. Again, another new young club with young players. It's going to take them a couple of years to get to the to understand AFL and get used to the system, so they're not under a lot of pressure. So the Demons this year are under quite a fair bit of pressure. I feel like they have to live up to what they've been like the past couple of years, and that is really good. Now, actually, I'm going to track them down to mild pressure. Some people have predicted the Demons fall off. I feel like they're going to be still a good side this year that are going to contend with the best of the best. There's not really a lot more to say about Melbourne. I feel like they're still under mid-pressure. It'll be interesting to see how they go. So North Melbourne is another one of those sides not under a lot of pressure. Again, it's going to be a real trial experiment year. Clarko's on a big contract. He's a great coach. We're not going to sack him in the first 10 rounds. Again, lots of younger players there. He's going to make it. They're going to take a couple of years to get used to the system. So I feel like North's ultimate aim in 2023 is to try and just get off that bottom, get off the wooden spoon, try and get out of the bottom 4, but that is quite a tough ask. I feel like just finishing 15th, 16th would be enough to be a decent year for North Melbourne, which doesn't put pressure on. If they do finish bottom again, or even 17th, there is pressure on for next year. But I feel like if they can just win a couple more games than last year, just start to get something rolling which works, they could be pretty decent in the next couple of years and start climbing back up that ladder. So Port Adelaide, I feel like with their big name recruits, they are under quite a fair bit of pressure this year to try and get back into finals. 0-5 last year really did hurt them, and if they start off 0-5 again, pressure is right on. There's a fair bit of pressure around them, though, this year with their recruits. Their coach, Ken Hinckley, is under tons of pressure, which probably does give him a good way to go ahead and actually move up this pressure list. Now, obviously, we do know they got some big recruits which are going to be under pressure, and obviously their coach is under pressure. It's a really interesting year for Port Adelaide, and it's going to be a really big one. So Richmond, I'm going to say, are actually under quite a fair bit of pressure as well to perform this year. Now, they do need to play pretty well, and they do need to get tons of wins. They should be right back up in the top 4 with their star recruits they've got, and I feel like they are under quite a fair bit of pressure this year to perform the Tigers. So St Kilda, I'm going to go ahead and put them in. Look, you can put them in mild, you can put them in fair, but you can put them in lots. You could really put them anywhere on this list. I'm going to put them in, I kind of wish that I had a slot in between Fairbit and Mild. I'm going to put them on the end of fair bit of pressure, though, because last year for St Kilda was a bit of a nothing year. There's a couple of their players which were really under pressure in their club, couple of young players which were quite fine for now, but some like Max King is one who's really under pressure due to his kicking last year was horrible. At times where the game was on the line against Brisbane, he could not kick straight, and they probably would have been able to win that game had he not missed so many chances. A couple of other players that were really under pressure last year as well. Last year was a bit of a nothing year for the Saints. This year they need to start climbing up the ladder and at least contending for finals for like 20 rounds. Otherwise, this year could be a poor year for St Kilda and things could be looking bad. So Sydney, they're actually under quite a fair bit of pressure as well. Now, not sure if you guys have heard, but grand final fall-off happened to the Crows in 2017, happened to the Giants in 2019, happened to the Dogs in 2021, where they're just not the same the next year after being beaten in the grand final by a convincing margin. Does this happen to the Swans? Not sure, don't think so, but they are still under a fair bit of pressure in that sense. So the West Coast Eagles, I feel like, have mild pressure to a fair bit. I'm going to put them at the start of mild just because their players are experienced. They are good players and they paid a lot, especially for like Tim Kelly to have their club. They've actually got a decent crop of players as well as some decent young players as well, which is why I'm going to put them under mild pressure. Bit of improvement for the Eagles in 2023 is needed. However, I still do feel like that may not happen in 2023. Alright, now it's the last club, which is the Western Bulldogs. And they are going to be under a fair bit of pressure heading into 2023 as well. Just because we know their side, Bontempelli, Aaron Norton, Jack McRae. There are some Bailey Smith. There are quality players in all areas of their ground. Especially in the forward line and the back line. Forward line and midfield is where they're stacked up the most, which is why I need to be looking at finals as well. I feel like the Doggies could be in mild pressure, but I feel like based on where they're at and how last year was, they'd be looking to respond, and I feel like they do find themselves in a fair bit of pressure just as results-wise in 2023, and if they do have a very big drop-off this year, which does see them slip back down into the middle order, of the ladder, that'll be danger for them and they'll be in lots of pressure for next year. So I've got Carlton and Gold Coast in my only two sides which are under lots of pressure going into this year, both sides needing to make finals. In fair bit of pressure, I've got the Crows, the Lions, the Power, the Bombers, the Dockers, the Tigers, the Saints, the Swans and the Doggies. In mild pressure, I've got West Coast, Collingwood and Melbourne. In a bit of pressure, I've got the Cats. And then in not a lot of pressure, I've got the Giants, the Hawks and North Melbourne. So feel free to let me know how you think your club is going ahead of the 2023 AFL season, whether you feel like they are under pressure. So thank you guys. Well, before I finish off actually, this is just my opinion, so feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. Sending you guys never miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much. Bye everyone. Flaming Footy out.